Our plan includes the following: $800 million in urgent humanitarian assistance, $805 million for drug detection technology to help secure our ports of entry, an additional 2,750 border agents and law enforcement professionals, 75 new immigration judge teams to reduce the court backlog of, believe it or not, almost 900,000 cases in order to build the trust and goodwill necessary to begin real immigration reform. There are two more elements to my plan. Number one is 3 years of legislative relief for 700,000 DACA recipients brought here unlawfully by their parents at a young age many years ago. This extension will give them access to work permits, Social Security numbers, and protection from deportation, most importantly. Secondly, our proposal provides a 3-year extension of temporary protected status, or TPS. This means that 300,000 immigrants whose protected status is facing expiration will now have 3 more years of certainty so that Congress can work on a larger immigration deal, which everybody wants, Republicans and Democrats. And our farmers and vineyards won't be affected because lawful and regulated entry into our country will be easy and consistent. That is our plan: border security, DACA, TPS, and many other things. Straightforward, fair, reasonable, and common sense.
Simone, we were talking to you right before the president's remarks. You were saying that this deal, as we knew it at the time, wasn't fair, even though Dems would get temporary protections for Dreamers and the president would get some money for a small portion of his wall. Did anything you heard change your mind?
It didn't change my mind, and it's not going to change the Democrats' minds. The fact of the matter is the government is shut down because Donald Trump went back on his original deal. The Senate passed an appropriations bill that did include border security. It did not include money for his wall. When Donald Trump signaled that actually he changed his mind and now he wants money for the wall, the Republican-led House in 2018 decided not to take up the bill. When Democrats gained control of the House, Nancy Pelosi put the Republican Senate appropriations bill on the floor. It passed the House. Mitch McConnell won't take up the bill because President Trump is refusing to sign it. And so now, today, Donald Trump conspired with his Vice President, Mike Pence, and Stephen Miller, and maybe 3 other Republicans on a compromise to fix a mess that he put us in. This is not a compromise. This is a bunch of things cobbled together that Donald Trump has previously spoken about and has never made good on. Democrats were not even involved in these conversations, so how is this a negotiation? This is stupid. I think the American people think this is dumb. If Donald Trump wants to have a conversation about real immigration reform, open the government. There are bills that have been passed. The House has voted 9 times. I am frankly tired of this exercise of Donald Trump coming out and saying the same thing he said last week, and then we're all going to pretend as though he's saying something new. He shut the government down, and he and Mitch McConnell need to open that thing up. Let's go.
Alice, do you disagree?
I do. Look, the reason we're not just opening up the government and talking about this later is because there is zero mutual trust between Republicans and Democrats, the president and Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. And the reality is the fact that Nancy Pelosi came out before she even heard what he was going to say and said she was not going to support this idea says a lot. The ball is now in her court. It is time for Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats really to put up or shut up. Yes, she is right. These are previously rejected initiatives that didn't pass before. The difference now and then is that black box on the screen right there that says government shutdown day 29. And this is about opening up the government, putting these 800,000 Americans back to work. And this is a good faith effort on the part of the president to do so. Look, 70% of Americans want to provide protections for Dreamers. He is including that in there. The TPS protections, that is a good faith effort. Look, if we're not going to have Democrats even to come to the table and have this conversation, we're not going to get anywhere. I think there's a lot of wiggle room with regard to the number, the $5.7 billion. But if Democrats don't say, okay, we'll take your Dreamers and your DACA protections and work from there, we're not going to get anywhere. And right now, it's up to Nancy Pelosi. She needs to put aside her hatred for Donald Trump and her new fear of the progressive wing and really move the ball down the field on this. And that's
I know,
the only
Simone,
way
you
we're
want to
going
get back
do that.
in here, but let me just tell you what we have learned about what Nancy Pelosi and Democrats in the House do plan to do next week, and that is to pass some legislation that would add another $1 billion in border security to the mix. Could that go somewhere?
In my opinion, it should. Look, Democrats have been very clear. They will fund border security. Democrats want to fund the Department of Homeland Security. It is not good for anyone that currently the Department of Homeland Security is not funded, that folks are going to work for free. Like, this is not safe for Americans. But Democrats aren't going to fund Donald Trump's little racist wall. And that is why the government is shut down, because Donald Trump came back and said, actually, I want money for my wall, a wall that he told us Mexico was going to pay for. I kind of feel crazy because he shut the government down over lack of wall funding, not over border security funding. Democrats have never said that they're not going to fund border security. All of the measures that have been put on the floor have included border security. What they have not included is his wall funding. Are we going to allow the president to hold us hostage over a campaign promise he knew was a lie? I don't think so.
Let me ask you that follow question, though, because if Democrats do end up putting this legislation forward, should Republicans sign off on it? Should the president be on board with that?
I think if we can come to an agreement on certainly protection for Dreamers and the TPS recipients, and include some type of border security.
But that's I don't want to confuse our viewers, because I don't think that's part of the plan, this $1 billion that Democrats are planning to offer in order to open the government. They want that money to go to about $500 million to go to increasing the security at the ports of entry, which we know is where the majority of drugs are coming across the border. They also want a portion of that money to go to helping the immigration backlog of cases there at the border, which again is something the president just said he wanted to also invest in as well. I mean, that seems like an area where everybody can agree. So is that something that could maybe charge, give this standoff and this current stalemate a charge?
Look, Anna, everyone has some ideas that I think are worth discussing, and we need to have everyone sit down. But the good thing is everyone, Republicans and Democrats, agree that the border security is a critical issue. The question is, how do we go about making sure that we do that? And I can say this, look, it's not a surprise that tomorrow is the 2-year anniversary of the president being the president of the United States, and he would like to see some progress on this. This certainly is an issue that has divided a lot of people. Look, I was a Republican, voted for him. I never thought Mexico was going to pay for the wall, but I knew that this was a priority for this president, and he wants to make some progress on this. And so that idea, the issue that the Democrats are promoting, that's something that needs to be discussed, as well as what the Republicans are doing. But the key is, and the president mentioned this a couple times in the speech, we need to build trust and work across the aisle. And this is, in my view, his effort to make that happen. I know he has Republican support. I'd like to think the Democrats would be on board as well.